Hello, my name is Helen Doyle, and my article Institutionalising Madness, Carlow District Asylum and the Rise of the Irish Asylum System has been included in this 2021 edition of the Carloviana. I first became interested in the history of mental illness in Ireland when I researched the topic for my master's thesis. At that time, my research questioned whether poverty was the determining factor in the committal of female patients to Carlow District Asylum between 1850 and 1880. I intend to continue my research on 19th century mental illness, as I am particularly interested in investigating how societal perceptions of mental illness formed in the 19th century remain relevant today. My article in the Carloviana explores the establishment of the District Lunatic Asylum in the early 19th century, with particular focus on Carlow. Carlow was one of the first counties in Ireland to be granted a district asylum, and the asylum opened for admissions in May 1832. Legislation passed in 1817 and amended in 1821 resulted in the first 9 district asylums being built across Ireland. At this time, Ireland was one of the first countries worldwide to have an asylum system solely dedicated to the care of pauper lunatics. It was not until 1838 that France and 1845 that England were to have such a system of asylums. Although it was originally thought that 9 asylums, together with the existing asylum in Cork and the Richmond in Dublin, would be more than adequate to house the entire lunatic population of the country. At this time, there was genuine concern for the plight of the lunatic poor, and campaigners such as Sir John Newport, MP for Waterford, and Thomas Spring Rice, Governor of the House of Industry in Limerick, had worked tirelessly to see that provision was provided for these most destitute of society. At the beginning of the 19th century, medical advances were also dictating new ways of caring for the mentally ill. Most significant of these was moral treatment, a regime of therapy that had originated simultaneously with Philippe Pinel in France and William Tuke in York, England. This type of treatment was based on freeing lunatics from restraint and treating them with gentleness and kindness. A one-to-one relationship between doctor and patient was considered to be extremely important and beneficial to the patient. Optimism was high. The pauper lunatics would be admitted to district asylums, restored to full health through a regime of moral therapy, and then discharged, their sanity fully restored, to live long and productive lives. Unfortunately, within a short space of time, it was becoming clear to all concerned that this was not to be the case, and that all lunatics could not be cured. All too soon, asylums were overcrowded as incurables took up spaces that should have been available for those who could be cured. This large number of patients did not hail solely from the pauper population. As there had been a failure to define the term pauper lunatic, soon it was the working class who were taking up the majority of spaces in asylums. As the only criteria for admittance was a certificate from a clergyman or a doctor stating inability to pay for private care, many working class were eligible for admission to district asylums. It was thought that the only solution was to build more asylums, and with that in mind, a second and a third wave of construction took place in the 1850s and 1860s. With overcrowding remaining a problem well into the 20th century, district asylums became more institutions of containment and control than hospitals for the care and cure of the mentally ill. Reform of the system would not take place until the Mental Treatment Act of 1945. In terms of research for this article, most sources I used are available locally. We are lucky here in Carlow to have the complete collection of the records for the district asylum in Carlow College St Patrick's. This collection includes patient registers, Board of Governor minute books, correspondence and much more. These records, together with the reports of the inspectors of lunatic asylums, provide detailed information on those who spent time in district asylums. Carlow County Library Archive contains the records of the Carlow Poor Law. During times of overcrowding, the asylum often requested that untroublesome patients be moved to the workhouse to make space for new admissions. These records contain information on how many patients were in the workhouse at any given time, and in some cases how they were treated by staff. At times, the content of these records is quite disturbing. For example, there is a written record of how female idiots were locked in an iron crib in close proximity to a fire where they could possibly have been burnt. The medical officer reported that the nurse was missing from her post at this time. Carlow County Library Archive also provides online access to both national and local newspapers. Newspapers during the 19th century published a vast amount of information on mental illness in the district asylum system. Inspectors' reports were printed, letters from the public, and often sensational reports of the antics of lunatics, dangerous and otherwise. This type of story was guaranteed to increase sales. At times, although initially there was widespread support for district asylums, some reporting was negative. For example, in 1852, the Nina Guardian reported that there should be some medium between shutting up persons with diseased brains in jail cells and building palaces and providing a rich dietary for them before the very eyes of their homeless and hungering neighbours. Together with these primary sources, secondary source literature by both national and international writers was used. Most notably, Mark Finan's 1980s study on insanity in the insane in post-famine Ireland remains to date extremely influential and well respected. Studies by Joseph Robbins, Una Welsh and Brendan Kelly are also informative on the history of mental illness in Ireland. Elizabeth Malcolm and Catherine Cox focus on specific asylums, St Patrick's and the Carlow district respectively. Further afield, writers such as Andrew Scull, Roy Porta and Michel Foucault provided information on how insanity was understood and treated in England and across the world. So finally, we can see that mental illness is certainly a topic that has interested historians for quite some time, and so it is possible to read widely on this subject. In conclusion, I would like to thank John Kelly for inviting me to speak at this very special online launch tonight, and to wish Carlow Historical and Archaeological Society every success with this issue of the 2021 Carloviana. Thank you.